this from last time.
Oh, it was left here for me?
Okay. Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order this May 16th, 2024 regular board meeting of the School District of Haverford Township, and to welcome the many of you who have joined us here in the Oakmont Administration Building. This meeting is being broadcast on the district YouTube channel and will be recorded and available for later watching. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I ask board members to read the district's mission and goals.
The mission of the School District of Haverford Township is to educate and to inspire a community of lifelong learners who become well-rounded global citizens. The pillars of our educational system are: our school environment is safe and nurturing. Excellence in education is a shared responsibility in partnership with all district and community members. Whole child development is vital to our educational system. Supports and conditions exist whereby all students have opportunities to grow and excel in the areas of academic, technical and career, and social emotional learning. And our decision-making process is student-centered and student voice is valued.
The 2020 to 2025 district goals are social emotional wellness, to produce a community of empathetic and resilient learners with skills to socially and emotionally flourish, prepare contemporary citizens, to modernize and expand learning experiences to prepare students as critical thinkers, problem solvers, innovators, and designers within a complex global society. And diversity and inclusion, to establish a culturally diverse and inclusive educational experience that develops socio-cultural proficiency.
Thank you. Now I'll ask Mr. Anthony Testa, the board secretary, to please call the roll.
Dr. King?
Present.
Dr. Larson? Ms. Lee?
Here.
Dr. McKay?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz?
Here.
Dr. Shelton? Ms. Vitale?
Here.
Ms. Snodgrass?
Here.
Ms. Wiedemann?
Here. The next item is the official minutes. I will ask for a motion to approve the official minutes from the May 2nd, 2024 regular board meeting.
Snodgrass, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And now we'll turn to our student representatives, and we'll begin with the Haverford Middle School student representative, Willow Dizel.
Good evening. My name is Willow Dizel, and I'm happy to be here tonight to update the school board on what's been happening at Haverford Middle School. As you may know, Speech Pathologist Appreciation Day is tomorrow. Our two speech pathologists, Mr. Gower and Mrs. Detweiler, are amazing, and we appreciate the great work that they do with many of our students. We are also starting the process of closing out the school year. Spring sports teams have had great seasons. Our student athletes have learned a lot and grown as athletes and teammates. Many end-of-year activities are scheduled to take place over the next few weeks. Each grade level has an end-of-the-year trip planned. 6th grade will be going to Camp Canadensis, 7th grade will be going to Dorney Park, and 8th grade will be going to Hershey Park. We also have team awards, an honors night for 8th grade, and a lot of band, orchestra, and chorus concerts planned. We recognize that the year is coming to an end and value all the hard work of our family, friends, and teachers. All of our students are very excited for the summer and to be moving up next year. Thank you for allowing me to present, and I'm looking forward to being a regular reporter at these meetings next year.
And from Haverford High School, we have Lucy Filkin.
Good evening and happy May. My name is Lucy Filkin and I'm a junior at the high school in the class of 2025. Keystones and AP exams have been taking place this week. I took my AP Bio exam today and my AP Language test on Tuesday. All of the students have been working very hard to be prepared for the exams. Last weekend was senior prom. I got the privilege to attend. The Franklin Institute was beautiful and Blast was, well, a blast. The parents spent such a long time thoughtfully planning out a fun evening for us, and it's very clear. The secondary art show was this past week at the middle school, and there was an awesome display of artwork from artists in grades 6 through 12. Also, our esports team has advanced into the playoffs. We are waiting on the results from their latest match to see if they'll make it to state finals. In sports news, boys volleyball just finished playing their district champ. The softball team won Central League championships on Monday evening with a victory over Conestoga. This is their third straight Central League championship. They're ranked 5th in District 1 and will play a home game next Wednesday. Boys basketball made it to District 1 playoffs for the first time since 2016. Boys lacrosse and girls lacrosse both had a great season, losing in District 1 playoffs. The girls track and field team is the Central League champions, and the girls team also won the Delco championship meet. I placed 1st in shot put and 2nd in discus, contributing 18 points to the team's total score. Districts will take place at Coatesville tomorrow and Saturday. WHHS Big Show is this Saturday from 12 to 4 out back of the high school, showcasing a few talented music artists from the high school. The seniors are currently getting ready for graduation on June 6th at St. Joe's, and I'm proud to say that all of the seniors have been incredible to learn from the last 3 years. Lastly, the next half day will be Friday, which will be well-deserved, and next Friday, and will be well-deserved break after an action-packed month of May. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to share some Haverford highlights.
Can I just point out that Lucy's wearing her AP Bio t-shirt that
Oh, nice.
students wore.
Our tech crew from the Facility and Finance and Curriculum Pupil Service, he had on one of the t-shirts too. So yeah, lots of rallying around for everyone to get good scores. Thank you. And the next part of our agenda is the superintendent's report, and Dr. Rushi is already getting ready.
Our students and our staff members who are recipients of the Delaware County Right to Know Education Local Task Force Making a Difference Awards. On Tuesday, April 30th at Springfield High School, our students and staff members were recognized in a number of categories, most notably promoting community inclusion. And we want to recognize that this evening. So, these are the students. The first student is Ava Miller. Ava has been involved with theater all of her life, and her siblings have not been able to attend her performances because they're not able to regulate themselves in that type of a setting. Ava came up with the idea of a sensory-friendly high school musical theater production this past fall. And not only did she star in the show, but she served as the primary point person for this special performance. She came up with strategies to minimize the aspects of the performance that might be challenging for people with sensory needs. As you can hear from the description there, Ava has certainly made a difference that is going to be able to continue on throughout the experience at the high school in our additional theater productions. So we want to recognize Ava's accomplishments. We have a dynamic duo of Liam and Noah Riley with us this evening, students in grades 5 and 7 in our district who attended a board meeting a few years ago and talked about how great things were at Manoa, with one exception, and that one exception being that the school was missing swings. And how swings would promote inclusion for all students on the playground. And after a lot of work on their part, meeting with Dr. Raimundos at the time, working with other students in the building. If you drive by Manoa, now there are swings located there. So we want to join in recognizing both Liam and, Noah Riley. nominated by one of her friends, peer in the school, Colin Dunleavy, is the recipient, Eva Havlin. Eva has been a wonderful friend to Colin, enabling him to participate with other children in many of the activities offered throughout the middle school. And we think it's really terrific to have that nomination coming from a fellow student and to be recognized as making a difference in how that child is able to participate fully in school. So we want to thank Eva and congratulate her. And we have, sorry. Matthew. High school student in grade 11, Matthew Barkalors, has been a member of the high school swim team for 3 years. He's overcome every obstacle that was put in his path, and he's done so with the biggest smile on his face. He never backs down from a challenge. He's an asset to the team. He can be found cheering the team on during the various meets. He's a member of Special Olympics team. And if you ask him, he will very proudly show you the gold medal that he acquired at a national meet. So congratulations to Matthew Baccalaureus. Absolutely.
We want everybody in the picture. Here, why don't you come next to Sweet a minute.
I got it. There's only one left. A group of our staff members were recipients of this award as well in the category of promoting community inclusion. And these are the speech and language pathologists who work district-wide with all of our students. They wrote a grant so that communication boards could be installed at all of the elementary playgrounds to promote communication between and among students when they're using those playgrounds. Students who use augmentative communication devices and their peers now have access to these communication boards on each one of the playgrounds. The boards were installed over the summer, and all students were provided information on how to use the communication boards to communicate with peers. Drive by and see the action on our playgrounds every day, and they're there all of the time so they can be used not just when school is in session, but available to make those playgrounds accessible to all students all throughout the year. So we're recognizing our speech and language pathologist, Jamie White. If you would please come up. Taylor Toohey. Tracy Spivak. Maria Simmons. Julianne Santiago. G. Lee. Derek Gower. Rachel Gutman. Jennifer Goldberg. Allie Foster. Kelsey Detweiler. And Megan Ziedler. Twice a month, when our board meets as they are this evening, in what is considered an action meeting, we hear from students at Haverford Middle School and Haverford High School about all of the comings and goings and happenings throughout the school. They keep us in touch from a student perspective, with knowing about the activities that they're engaged in, hearing about what they enjoy, hearing about what they're really proud of within their school. Certainly a testament to H Pride every time we hear the students speak. We have a number of Haverford Middle School students that we want to thank this evening and express our appreciation for them being here. When we'll start, Bianca Salerno, Tegan Day, Zora Alvarado, Colton Crowder, Sophia Coletti, Peyton Manfrey, Naomi Ludwig, and Alina Esternell. Thank you for the time that you spent with us, for keeping us informed of all of the happenings at Haverford Middle School. And in addition to the middle school, as I mentioned, we hear about all of the happenings in the high school as well. This evening, Lucy Filkin is here with us. You heard the report that she delivered earlier. I can say it's been wonderful to watch from where I sit, to just see how kind and considerate Lucy has been so many evenings to that middle school child sitting next to her. They're not here as frequently as she is, and yet she'll move the microphone, she'll move a paper that they have in front of them, and you've been a great role model for the students as well. We thank our high school students. These 3 students who have rotated their time with us are quite busy. In addition to being full-time students in our high school, each of the 3 of them hold a job. If you looked at their course schedule, they're engaged in a rigorous course load of studies at the high school. They're involved in numerous clubs and activities as well, and yet they are consistently here. It's rare that seat has been empty. They are consistently here and as enthusiastic as ever, sharing what they are most proud of in the high school. So Lucy, we'll look forward to having you back here again with us next year, but we want to recognize your involvement with us this year. In addition to Lucy, Austin McConnell and Aaron Coyle, and we will visit them tomorrow.
Oh, I like your Crocs, Lucy. Thank you.
One of our agenda items within the superintendent's report is titled Wellness Committee Update, to be provided by Nicole Battestelli. Unfortunately, Nicole is unable to be with us this evening, so we will move that committee update to our next meeting in June. And Nicole we did get a message to the committee members earlier today, just in case anyone was planning to come, so that they would know that item would be moved. Final, a couple of announcements. We have scheduled our, what we call our Ford's Diversity Career Networking event. Ford's standing for Forging Outstanding Relationships with Diverse Staff. That is scheduled for next Tuesday, May 21st, from 6 to 8 in the Haverford Middle School Library. We're hoping to provide a little bit of insight into our district to potential candidates, give them an opportunity to learn a little bit more about us. And I also want to mention that our district was very proudly represented by 2 skilled bus drivers at this year's Delaware County Bus Driver Safety Competition. Those who have been on the board, it's sitting at this table before, have heard over the years. Our drivers have been very successful in this competition, some going to states and nationals. It's just like a team, a sporting team at the high school level. We've got local winners one will now go on and compete to be the Pennsylvania state champ bus driver. So we want to congratulate 2 of our drivers, Joanne Cardelli and Willow, for securing those positions. Thank you, Ms. Weedman. And we'll invite them to a future meeting.
You really need to see them in action in their buses because the skills that they demonstrate are impressive. Being able to stop on a dime and back up to within inches of a target. The next section of our agenda is for public comment pertaining to items on tonight's agenda, and nobody signed up in advance. Is there anybody who would like to speak? I see one. Then I think you'll be in the second time for public comment. Thank you. All right, so and before we get into the rest of the agenda with board reports and business matters, if there was anyone who was here for the presentations earlier and wanted to exit before we get into the rest of the agenda, you're welcome to stay, of course, but if you'd like to head out, now would be a good time to do that. Okay. If you're here for government class, you should stay till the end, though. Oh, they're taking selfies. They were here.
I think they're supposed to stay. That's not who that was for. I was meant it for those 2 people on the side.
Yes. Okay. All right, the next section of our agenda is for board reports, and the first report is for Delaware County Community College.
All right, microphone difficulties. I'm going to just start with a brief update from the Delaware County Community College, the May update. And so there's been lots of great things happening at the DCC. I'm going to highlight a few of them now. From the Allied Health and Nursing Department, they hosted a Girl Scout troop from Coatesville, Pennsylvania to tour their surgical technology lab during the last weekend in April. During this time, the technology students volunteered to run this activity, to host the Girl Scout troop, and to introduce them to the profession of surgical technology as it's presented at the DCC. From the Business, Computing, and Social Science Department, there was a political science professor that shared the results of a new research within her book. Using this case study as it highlighted the city of Philadelphia and examining historical cultural sentiments and the role of city officials in the exacerbation of abuse, federal litigation, and civil activism, aimed at curbing police violence as it relates to individuals in the city of Philadelphia. From the Science, Technology, and Engineering and Mathematics Department, that's a mouthful, the Wistar Institute accepted 7 Delaware County Community College students into the Biomedical Technician Training Program for the upcoming summer 2024 session. This program is a 12-week program designed to respond to the growing demand for well-trained laboratory technicians and research assistants in the life sciences, and it consists of a 2-week intensive laboratory course, as well as a 2 5-week internship placements at an academic or industry biomedical laboratory. From the Emergency Services Education Department, they continue to partner with area high schools to train students on the administration of Narcan. During the training, students learn to recognize the signs and symptoms of an opiate overdose and how to administer the opiate overdose reversal drug. From the admissions dual enrollment, the college reports that there have been 16 eligible students confirmed as of May 6th from various local school districts that are partnered with the Delaware County Community College, as well as there are a variety of different scheduled recruitment activities throughout the month of May to help with the ongoing enrollment there. Additionally, as a part of the sponsorship agreement that we have with the Delaware County Community College, as well as all of those districts that are involved, there's the responsibility for selecting the college's trustees. And so at prior meetings, I had announced the vacancy that became available in October. Since that time, there has been various members of the community that have responded to the open vacancy. There were interviews that took place. And later on this evening, we'll be voting on the recommendation of a potential new trustee appointment to be voted on to join the trustee board there. And that completes my report.
All right, thank you. The next board report is for Delaware County Intermediate Unit.
Okay, thank you. So the DCIU Board of Directors met on Wednesday, May 1st. Some of the key contracts that we approved included the June 1st, 2024 submission of the Early Head Start Child Care Partnerships Baseline Non-Competitive 5-Year Grant, say that 10 times fast, with funding for the period of September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2025. We also approved the purchase of almost 4,000 duo licenses from the company CDWG through a PEPM contract. And this is going to allow single sign-on security support for DCIU and multiple school districts. In terms of some contracts with school districts and other partners for programs and services, we approved to amend the agreement with Delaware County Workforce Development Board, DCWDB, to extend their term for an additional 6 months. We approved a 5-year contract with the Commonwealth University of Pennsylvania for DCIU to provide field study, internship, practicum, or student teaching opportunities. We also approved a 1-year contracts with Eastern University in 2 areas, the first being dual enrollment of Delaware County Technical School students and Delaware County Technical School Early Childhood Education Program students to earn up to 6 credits. We approved a 1-year contract with the University of Northwestern Ohio for DCTS Automotive Technology Program students to earn up to 12 credits. And finally, we approved 45 students and 5 staff members to attend the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters in Philadelphia. And that conference took place this past month. On May 8th, we had our board committee meeting, and that was held at the Fulcroft site. Typically we meet in Morton, but seeing Fulcroft was, I think, really important, especially because we're looking at some some construction that would take place there. So it was nice to see what is currently, the programs and services that are currently offered, and then look at the construction plans for how those programs and space will expand. And we also looked at some construction plans for the Marple site to improve that as well. And we had a presentation on how DCIU can support schools with their school improvement planning. And that's it.
All right, thank you. The next item is the Delaware County Legislative Council.
Yeah, we met on Wednesday, May 8th. A couple of things that we discussed was first, resolutions were shared, resolutions that have been passed. So our resolution was shared along with the Rose Tree Media's and others as potential examples for resolutions on voucher scholarships to private schools and the call for fair funding. And just a reminder again, the legislative breakfast is tomorrow morning. The agenda was shared with us, so there will be speakers there who will provide a wealth of information around the greater funding issues, including the implications of the potential state budget, special education funding, the impact concerns of vouchers and scholarships to private schools, and the lack of basic education funding, as well as there will be student presentations, including a group of students from William Penn on safe and healthy schools. So for those of us who will be attending, we'll bring back a report on all of those great things that we'll learn tomorrow. In addition, just so board members are aware that DCIU has a training available for May 29th from 6 to 7:30. The title of the training is What is a School Board Member to Do? Caught in the Middle on First Amendment Issues, Social Media and Culture Wars, a survival guide for school board members. This is free for Delaware County School Board members as well as school leaders that includes superintendents and assistant superintendents.
I'm sorry, I'll be sending more information out to the board about that.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Pennsylvania School Boards Association.
Thanks. Just two quick things. One, nominations are open for PSBA officer nominations. If anybody wants more information on that, give me a heads up. And there's still time to propose items to add to the legislative proposals. That's it.
Okay. The Finance and Facilities meeting.
Two very extensive committee meetings last week. For finance and facilities, I'll try to be as fast as I can. The first thing we saw was a presentation on the new work to be performed at Chatham Park. It's a good presentation, a lot of nice graphics in there, good renderings about what the new school building will look like. Had a fly-through video as well, which is good to see. The other thing that was brought up was the Act 34 booklet. That'll be on the agenda this evening for approval. Act 34, just to give everybody kind of an overview of what that is a requirement by Pennsylvania, by the Commonwealth. It requires a public hearing for school construction of the extent that we're doing at Chatham Park. There'll be public hearing when you can come. It's additional opportunity to comment on the renovations and additions at Chatham Park. That will be held on June 12th at 6:30, right here. And like I said, we're voting on the booklet this evening to approve that booklet and get that out so people can have a chance to review it. Also saw a presentation from Chartwell's, our food service management company. They talked about some of the improvements and some of the activities they did the past couple of years. And on our agenda this evening is a approval of a contract renewal for them, for Chartwell's. Also saw a presentation on the final budget by Mr. Testa. Had some discussion on the budget. The final budget adoption will be actually a day after the Act 34 meeting on June 13th at our regular board meeting. That'll be the final budget adoption for the for what's on there. There's still time to comment on the budget. A couple other minor items, or not, I shouldn't say minor items, a couple other items that are on the agenda this evening. One will be just for board review, comparison of some of the proposals we received for copier and print management. A couple of pros and cons there for each. That's informational items for right now, just for people to review. There is something for approval. We are looking for an a la carte pricing proposal. Chartwell does have some minor increases to some of their items on their a la carte menu for next year. We have to approve that. And then there also is going to be a vote on doing some of the early work for Chatham Park. I believe there is $680,000 that can be done this year on some of the site work for the school this summer. So there'll be a vote on that this evening. And that's basically it.
All right, thank you. The Curriculum and Pupil Services Committee meeting.
So following the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting last week, the Curriculum Committee met directly after that meeting. I always encourage everyone to go back and watch the meeting on YouTube. I will be giving just some very brief highlights, but it was a robust meeting and lots of good information that's out there. And so the biggest point of the topic was the internal audit that was conducted in collaboration with the DCIU and sharing some of the findings and results from that internal audit that took place. Under the K through 12 ELA audit review, there were strengths and growth opportunities shared as it relates to the three main goals, which were desired results, evidence, and learning plans. From that, there was information provided regarding recommendations. And so the recommendations that were listed clearly define and articulate priority standards, revise the existing pacing guides and curriculum documents to establish a K through 12 vertically aligned curriculum, explicit vocabulary instruction in grades 6 through 12, to increase clarity in the writing curriculum, comprehensive support for diverse learning needs, and continue enhancing book and reading selections for student engagement. To continue on with that overview, there was a humanities curriculum update as well. So from the elementary level, in a prior update to the board, there were 3 sets of English language arts curriculums that were shared. And so after careful consideration from that ELA audit and development committee, there was a unanimous vote from within that committee to recommend the Wit and Wisdom as the new core curriculum resource. During the presentation, there were lots of information shared as it relates to the Wit and Wisdom core curriculum resource, including examples. So again, I would encourage others in the community to go and look at that to get more information there. Related to the secondary level, there were various steps that were shared that has been completed thus far, including reviewing the DCIU audit report recommendations, listening to read and research from the Knowledge Managed podcasts and articles, gaining information from middle school and high school teachers, as well as beginning to talk to other teachers from other districts. As of now, the goal is continued development work for the 24-25 school year. That was highlighted throughout the presentation. From the elementary library curriculum update, the 5 elementary librarians have met monthly for the past 2 years to actively update, revise, and create a working library curriculum. There were various steps that were shared in terms of that process, and so ongoing next steps would be to develop common lessons to teach the revised curriculum. That's it.
All right, thank you. Anything from the policy committee?
I gave my report last time from the policy committee, but we are going to see 7 first readings of policies tonight later in the agenda.
All right, thank you. And for the board president's report, I know several of us have attended different activities around the district. Kim McKay?
I was able to attend the high school orchestra concert, and then last night's band and string chamber ensemble, which was great because it was student-driven performances and there was a lot of creativity. I know last week there was the high school band and jazz concert, and next week will be the high school choral concert, and many, many more performances that are happening throughout our district. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Fine, Mr. Fernandez, Ms. King, and Ms. Morano. And then all the other music teachers we have in our elementary level and throughout the district for all of their hard work throughout the year, building and celebrating music skills. As a parent and as a board member, I just feel so grateful to be in a district that prioritizes music as skill building and sees it as something to be celebrated. I also want to just thank publicly the wonderful parent volunteers at BOPS and the amazing work that they do throughout the year to, again, build and celebrate music. This year, they had these really great posters of seniors lining the wall of those who were the seniors graduating, which I just think is a really lovely thing to do. So, yeah, just appreciate all the district workers that work really hard to bring us music.
Thank you. And following up on music, I will celebrate the art show that was at the middle school. Our student reps spoke about that. I was there one evening and it was like walking into a museum. And you see the creative curriculum that is laid out for our middle school and high school students using a variety of medium. They had digital presentations, ceramics, fabrics, all kinds of art and 3D projects around, and it was also just fabulous to see such a great turnout, and students and families and people from the community finding their students' special creation, but just enjoying all the masterpieces. So a lot of work obviously went into creating all of the beautiful artwork, bless you, and in having it be displayed and available to the community. And a second effort of a lot that took many hands to put together was the Blast, the after prom. That was open to the community to tour before the prom goers got there and saw the theme of like passport travel around the world. The high school is transformed so many people create the scenes and displays and artwork, and then all the fun events. There's many people that volunteer all night long to host the activities and the theme rooms and serve the food and make it a great and safe night for our prom goers. So congratulations on a successful blast, and thanks to all the members of the community and the staff who spend a lot of time pulling that off. It was impressive to see. Today, I was also able to participate in a PSBA virtual advocacy day and represented Haverford with members of school boards from Chester, Wallingford, Swarthmore, William Penn, and our 3 local senators, Tim Carney, John Kane, and Amanda Capoletti participated. As I have often said, we are fortunate here in Haverford Township to have representatives who are proponents and supporters of public education, and these senators didn't need any convincing of the need for state action on the issues that were raised by the various board members from different districts, but we all spoke about funding challenges, the need for Pennsylvania to pass its budget so that we have more clarity on the resources available. And again, there are districts where that makes a significant difference. One of the districts knew that if they couldn't nail down the state funding, they would be looking at potential staff layoffs and the consequences that would have for their programming and ability to staff their schools in the fall. So high stakes for many districts. I feel fortunate that Haverford is not in that situation, but was able to convey the growing needs and budget of our district to support the growing enrollment, our capital projects for investing in our school facilities, the rising costs of special education and adding services like mental health and wellness supports, and just encouraged any support that the state can continue to give and to prioritize state dollars going to public education. So it was a great opportunity to get that message across, and it was well received. One note was a comment from the state senators about the value of the resolutions and actions that school boards take, and they said that while they are proponents of of public education, that they are largely in agreement that they see that the resolutions within the larger legislative process are an opportunity to communicate and align a unified front, and that the efforts are appreciated to hear from local governing bodies and local constituents on important matters. All right, with that, we'll turn to finance and facilities. The first item is the bill list. I will welcome a motion to approve disbursements for payment totaling $1,736,686.88.
Okay, moved.
Larson, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B is the Act 34 booklet approval. I will welcome a motion to approve the Act 34 booklet on the proposed additions and renovations to Chatham Park Elementary School.
Battestelli moved. Larson, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So this is something that was discussed at the finance meeting.
Yes, the meeting and the, and the meeting for the Act 34 booklet will be, again, on June 12th, 6:30.
Roll call, Tony. Mr. Testa? Roll call?
Before we do that, any other comments or discussion on the Act 34 booklet? All right.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Dr. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Dr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Dr. Shelton? Ms. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass?
Yes.
And Ms. Wiedemann?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the Chatham Park renovation summer 2024 pricing. I will accept a motion to authorize work for Chatham Park renovations during the summer of 2024 at a total cost of $689,934.30.
Schwartz moved.
Larson second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This is some of the preliminary work that is going to be done this summer at Chatham Park. There's a summary of that available on board docs. Involves some of the stuff that's being done actually in the school, including some of the asbestos removal. Stuff that we want to do before the kids come back.
Mhm. And from the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, this work is contingent on the bidding process
Yes.
going forward. And so we would only begin this initial demolition preparation if we knew that the full scope of the work is approved once we get those bids back in a couple weeks.
Yes, and I believe the date for that would be sometime in midsummer. I believe we had a date of June 24th, but that's all contingent, like you said, on final approval and bidding.
And this work is part of the budget for the overall
Yes.
consideration of all of the improvements at Chatham Park. And largely what people will see occur over the summer is that the auditorium space, the demolition of that would begin, the floor would be leveled because it will eventually connect to the gym and all be one combined room for gym. But in this construction period, it will be staged with several classrooms that will be built out this summer so that other spaces in the school can be shifted and moved to allow the rest of the construction to take place.
A lot of this is actually relocation, some of fire and security, what do they call it, the communication system, those kinds of things. So it'll be kind of prep work, if you will, for the larger construction effort.
Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Renovations are approved. Item D is a lease approval. I will accept a motion to approve the lease agreements with Apple Financial Services for technology leases as presented.
Larson moved.
King second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This looks like it's a lot of, I'm saying a lot, but the equipment is for 265 MacBooks and then a variety of other computers. Could you speak to who gets these new computers?
And Chromebooks. So the Chromebooks are for some of our students in second, sixth, and ninth grade. And then the Apple equipment goes to some of our high school teachers, middle school teachers, and then one of our elementary schools. And I'm drawing a blank on which one.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
what's the need for the different types of devices?
So students, all of our students in grades 3 through 12 are currently assigned a Chromebook. And we refresh those for them every 3 years, roughly, 3 to 4 years. The Apple equipment is for the teachers because some of the things they do just won't work on a Chromebook. So a Chromebook wouldn't be adequate for their teaching needs. And then there's just a mixture of some other laptops in there for other staff that need something a little more than just a MacBook Air.
Thank you.
You kind of answered some of this, but with the computers that are in the classroom for the teachers, how often do those need to be, I mean, I just know technology changes so fast. How often do we need to be phasing those out and phasing new ones in?
We're trying to refresh them roughly every 5 years, 4 to 5 years, depending on the use. Part of it is just staying ahead of Apple no longer supporting them, which means we don't get security updates for them. And some of it is just because we know that as we refresh them sooner, the recyclers will give us a better return on them that then allows us to put that money back into the lease and whatever else that we're doing for those equipment.
And are we able to like stagger it a little bit so that it's not one big
Yeah, and
mass?
that's what we've been doing, is we have kind of a cycle that's why I say I can't remember which of the elementary schools it is, but we try and stagger, part of the high school, part of the middle school, and one or two elementaries each year, so that it's kind of spread over multiple years.
Great, thanks. And the recycling proposal is on the agenda tonight that you described, that be able to find a way to safely and environmentally dispose of old equipment.
Correct, yes.
Any other comments or discussion about the technology lease approval? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item E is a copier print management solution award. I will accept a motion to award a 5-year agreement with Canon Financial Services for district print copy services with an annual recurring cost of $264,680.52, starting August 1st, 2024, pending solicitor review.
Words moved.
First and second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a quick note, I mentioned that we received the bid comparisons during the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. Canon was selected as the one that had the highest metrics, and I think, or highest valuation, 3 out of 4 metrics, and it was middle of the road with the overall cost. So it was deemed the best interest of the district. This is the approval for the 5-year contract.
And just to clarify, does this include maintenance on those machines?
It includes.
Or we can, Dave.
Yes,
Dave.
it
No, we
includes
can
support and
hear
maintenance
from-
on all of the district copiers across all the buildings, yes.
So I know teachers are really adept at fixing a broken copier, but sometimes you need to call in the pros.
We've learned that it's very important to have working copiers.
Yep. Thank you.
So we have not gone paperless by any means, that this is a high volume of paper that this would support.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a decrease since the last copier contract, but there's definitely a lot of paper still.
And this is, and we currently have Canon as a vendor, correct?
Correct,
So this
yes.
is a continuation of that
Yes.
service.
Yep. They've been a very good vendor for the last 5 years for the current contract.
All right, well, appreciate it going out to bid and seeing what the options are and the metrics that were used to decide these were the ones to continue with. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agreement is approved. Item F is Power School Messenger Agreement. I will accept a motion to award an agreement with Power School for district mass notification services with a 2023-24 cost of $18,286.97 and an annual recurring cost of $15,196.39 starting May 17th, 2024.
Larson moved?
Okay, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Is anything changing with what parents would see or people who use Power School?
You should just stand up
Yeah,
there for a
why
little
don't you-
while.
you just
Yeah,
stand.
I think the next one's me too.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah. So
Okay.
currently we use Swift K-12 that sends out all the snow closings, report cards, schedules, bus passes, all of our district level communication.
Coon mornings, we had one of those at Chestnut.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
We had a recommend.
Yes, correct. So all of those kind of notifications go out through the system. So we'll be switching from our current provider, who's no longer providing service as of June 30th, to School Messenger, which the district had previously, but it wasn't owned by Power School at the time. So now that it is, it won't change what parents use Power School for, but it may change what some of those communications may look like that they receive.
Okay, so I already have Power School on my phone, so
No change.
we're good.
You're good.
Okay.
Integrated with that.
That's a very good
Integrated.
question. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I got a lot of apps.
I hear you.
Okay.
We try our best. We try our best.
I know you do, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Still in Finance and Facilities, item G is Food Service Management Company Contract Renewal. I will accept a motion to approve the renewal of the Food Service Management Company cost reimbursement contract with Compass Group by and through its Chartwells division for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Battestelli moved. Larson second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
What I mentioned earlier and what we discussed at the Finance and Facilities Committee last Thursday and the presentation that they gave, I thought was very, very nice. So encourage people to check it out. It's pretty quick and brief, but a lot of good stuff in there.
And for the public, Mr. Testa, would you be able to describe the cost savings that we have because of this contract? I know food services had been operating in the red for a while.
Yes. So the presentation that they made had us with a profit for the next fiscal year for about 111,000. So they've seen a significant increase in the free breakfast program participation, which has helped fund the program and really bring it out of that red status that it was in at one point. But they constantly look to develop new food offerings for the students to help increase that participation. And that's really what they were working towards, increasing lunch participation overall into the next year.
How long have we been using Chartwells? Because I think it was a new contract a couple years ago. Do we know?
3 years, Lisa?
The fourth year. Okay, great. Yeah, it seems like they've been a good vendor to us the last few years, and no noticeable difference since before Chartwells was here in the past few years. So.
And given the amount of compliance that they have to deal with, it helps to have that management company that stays on top of all the rules and regulations and what we have to serve and what we can't serve.
The
Just to
compliance and
highlight
the
that.
purchasing power too that a large company brings. And just to note for the public that the administration, the management of our food service program is a contract with Chartwells, but the staff remain district employees.
And we are still actually short-staffed, so
Right.
doing our best at filling those spots. But yeah, still are short-staffed. They're doing a pretty good job. One of the improvements that has happened recently is they've got new washing machines and been able to switch the majority.
Dishwasher.
Dishwashers. What did I say? Washing machines. It's been a long week. Dishwashers. Excuse me. Which allowed us to do, I think, the majority of our lunches now using plastic trays. We still do use styrofoam, but if we can staff up, I think, fully, hopefully that'll help to mitigate that a little bit.
So yeah, positions posted on the district website if people are interested in that kind of in school and the limited hours, just that kind of a role. There's a food service job for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask Mr. Testa, this is a one-year renewal. Is it correct that these are contracts that are kind of governed by a PDE cycle that we need, like the contract is a state form that we?
Yeah, so this is the state form. This is our last year of renewable status. So then next year, for the following 25, 26, we would actually have to do an RFP for services for a food service management company.
Okay, like what we initially did when we engaged Chartwells.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're allowed 2 renewals, and this is our second renewal.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Food service is approved. Item H is data security and recycling proposal. I will accept a motion to approve an agreement for data security and recycling proposal with Sycamore International.
Larson moved.
Okay, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So it looks like this zeroes out to no cost to us and no cost to the company that, we're responsible for. Is that accurate? We're proving a bunch of zeros right now, but we're offloading some equipment.
Yes, there's no cost to the district or them. Generally, we do get some money back on these recyclings, but this is older network equipment and servers and things like that that are no longer utilized.
Okay, great.
Any other comments or discussion? Was that the last tech item for you? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item I is an asset disposal or sale. I will accept a motion to approve the sale of obsolete kitchen equipment to Linwood Gallimore in the amount of $7,650.
First moved.
First and second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So again, looks like we're recycling old equipment, but this time we're getting some money back. Kitchen.
Kitchen equipment, yeah.
And more money too. It's nice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item J is the à la carte menu pricing. I will accept a motion to approve the à la carte pricing for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Person moved?
For a second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
We didn't have a chance to discuss it really at the finance and facilities meeting last week, but there were a fair amount of price increases. Most of them were for 15, 25 cents per item. Those do add up, however. I mean, I'm assuming that we are chalking up a lot of that to inflation. Something that we should probably keep an eye on though, moving forward. These things, you know, every little penny adds up. So, a lot of increases. I know that last year we did not have that many of them. I think it was pretty flat, but just something that we should watch for next year.
How are these increases decided?
If you'd have to go to the microphone, please. And again, just to point out, this is the à la carte. This is not the paid lunch. This is for individual items, extras, add-ons.
Right. À la carte items are items that are sold separately, not part, they are part of a school meal, which lunch prices have remained the same for the last 5 years. We're just forced to increase some of the prices because of the high cost of food. We try to keep our food cost at 40%, which is what the USDA recommends. So we cost everything out and just try to bring everything up to the 40% food cost so we can stay within our budget.
And just to give a little more context, it looks like some of these increases range anywhere from 5 cents per a la carte item up to 25 cents. And in a rare instance, like Tropicana orange juice is up 50 cents, but that's kind of the exception.
Yes.
Yeah, a hamburger, a grilled cheese, a hot dog go from $2.60 to $2.75. There's pizza slices from $2.25 to $2.50. There's examples there. And then would these prices be posted
Yes, we do
at the
post
schools or
items.
sent to families?
And actually, à la carte prices are encouraged we want students to buy a meal, a full meal that includes fruits, vegetables, milk, and, it's more cost effective for students to buy a meal, more economical.
I noticed that there was that there were no increases for a lot of the healthier sides, I guess, if you will. A lot of the fruits and vegetables were held. So hopefully that'll encourage some people to make healthy choices. Yes. That's all the hope.
This might be a silly question, but is it clear to the students that that's the case, that it's more economical to buy the meal?
We do encourage students
Okay.
to have fruits, vegetables, and milk with their meal. We do encourage them when they come through the line.
Okay.
So if they pick the components of a school meal, it gets priced at that instead of à la carte.
Are the a la carte items reimbursable by the state?
They are not. Our meals are reimbursable, but our à la carte items are not.
And another just point of reference, there's an adult lunch on that, so that is for staff members who purchase lunch, and that goes from $4.25 to $4.75.
Right, and there's some information in there on what the state recommends. The pricing for the adult lunch has to be so much higher than the student lunch, and there's a factor in there that dictates that.
Still a pretty good deal.
$100 for lunch. Yeah, I'm not sure where you're finding that anymore.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Learning a lot about our lunch program.
Yeah, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item in our finance and facilities portion of our agenda is a request for a proposal. I will accept a motion to authorize the proper officers of the board to prepare and advertise documents to request proposals for the liquid propane gas commodity and delivery service.
Larson moved.
Short second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Got to keep our propane buses going.
Our growing propane fleet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Section 7 of our agenda is for Human Resources, and item A is retirements and resignations. I will accept a motion to accept the following retirements and resignations as listed.
Larson moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Noting a couple of long tenured staff on here.
4 years.
24 years each for Ms. Bissey and Mr. McCluskey, an instructional assistant and bus driver, and then 18 years for Ms. White, a custodian, and 12 years for Mr. Gonder, a bus driver. So nice long tenure to celebrate with Haverford School District.
And I'm really sorry to see that we're losing Ms. Harvey at the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wish her well with the new opportunity, but yeah, she'll be missed at Haverford Middle School. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Section B is for appointments, and I will welcome a motion to approve the following appointments as listed below, contingent upon receipt of all necessary clearances, including Act 168 of 2014.
Larson moved.
Short second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So it looks like we're close to being fully staffed for summer program?
Yeah.
Yes, why? Yeah. You kind of, okay.
A lot of additions.
Making
One of the
progress.
longest agenda items I've ever seen.
Closer, we are closer.
Nice having to scroll all the way down. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Appointments are approved. Item C is for leave of absence. I will accept a motion to approve the following leave requests.
Larson moved.
Sandra, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item D is the Administrative Supervisory Compensation and Fringe Benefits Guide. I will accept a motion to approve the Administrative Supervisory Compensation and Fringe Benefits Guide effective July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2027.
Larson moved.
Short second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
And is much of this decided during the union contract process?
It's more a meet and discuss process, because it's not a unionized group, but functions with that meet and discuss back and forth.
Thank you.
Yes.
And for maybe public context, can you let folks know how many employees are covered in our administrative supervisory group?
We have 43 members in that group, and it consists of our principals and supervisors and custodial staff as well, too, technology. Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 8 is for pupil services, and we have item A, an out-of-district contract approval. I will accept a motion to approve the following educational agreements for students attending extended school year at out-of-district placements as listed.
Larson moved.
Short second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Section 9 of our agenda is for curriculum and instruction. Item A is Flexible Instruction Day Program. I will accept a motion to approve the revised Flexible Instruction Day Program for submission to the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Larson moved.
Sandra, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just for the benefit of the public, can we get a brief overview of what this means?
The flexible instructional day outlines how we will approach that if needed. And That's something that districts had to submit previously. If you're going to make changes, which we are in this case, and those changes are identified as our flexible instructional day, if we need to utilize that, our activities will be asynchronous. For K-2, it's going to be entirely paper pencil based, and activities for grades 3 through 12 could be electronic or paper pencil based. We will still look to prioritize the use of inclement weather days before having to work with a flexible instructional day, or as people also refer to it, as a virtual day.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B is Prima Lingua Resources. I will accept a motion to approve the purchase of Prima Lingua Resources in the amount of $1,600 for the use in the world language curricula at Haverford Middle School.
King moved.
George second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This was the program that we got a presentation on, I believe, some time ago. It sounded great. Looking forward to seeing how it goes in.
Yeah, it was an extension of the options and some of the basic components of foreign languages to set students up for more success when they continue and select a language in high school. Any other comments or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C is student educational excursion. I will accept a motion to approve the student educational excursion listed below.
McKay moved. King second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Hopefully have fun attending the African American Museum in DC on the 30th. Should be beautiful that day, hopefully. At least warm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Section 10 of our agenda is for policy matters. We have 7 of them here tonight. Item A is Policy 712. I will accept a motion to accept the first reading of Policy 712, Environmental Sustainability, and its corresponding AR, which is Administrative Regulations.
Schwartz moved.
Snodgrass, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I gave my policy committee update last meeting, and this was one of the policies that was discussed at our last meeting. It would be a new policy for the district as well as the administrative regulation. I believe Chris and Dave were the ones who were able to get, and Kim, thank you, sorry. We're the ones who were able to gather information and see what other districts are doing, what the township is doing, and put something together so that the policy committee could review it and it could come before us now. There were, so this policy brings us closer to what the township is doing. And a lot of it, it seems like, is a codification of what we're already doing. It is important to the board and what the policy committee discussed because we want to ensure that this type of consideration that the district is giving to environmental stewardship now is long lasting and outlasts those of us on the board and our current facilities personnel as well. There were a couple updates to the policy itself that the policy committee had asked for. And in section 6 of the general guidelines, we asked for a periodic update to the board on progress. And so we had periodic update there and had the yearly progress that's been made. In the administrative regulations, the differences between what the policy committee saw and what we have before us is on page 1. The second paragraph, we added a practicability point in there. So to the extent practicable, they'll utilize the principle of the least amount of energy possible. And again, we have the practicability at the end of that paragraph added as well for those considerations. There was another addition in the alternative energy for buildings and facilities. to add that when these opportunities arise, new construction or major reconstruction, we will take those considerations. And then, at the very end of the administrative regulation, there was a sentence added for all purchasing will follow state and federal procurement requirements. So, I invite Steve or Kim to give us their thoughts on sort of generating this policy. And, obviously we discussed it a lot at the policy committee, but happy to hear more about, you know, the importance of this type of policy and, why we're bringing it before the board.
Well, I would just like to say, since I wasn't able to be at the policy meeting, but having attended several of the ad hoc committee, just how grateful I am to the district staff who put a lot of time and effort into putting this together and to being very thoughtful about what a plan could be that would be reasonable, but also doable. And just, yeah, I felt like the meetings were very productive, and I was grateful to the district staff for stepping up on it.
Yeah, I was going to second my thanks to the staff. They put together a great, very good, a very comprehensive set of ARs. That was one thing that really impressed me. The fact that the ARs are kind of how this policy gets enacted, and it's detailed, it's comprehensive, and I think what this does really is we've always, district as Ms. Congress indicated, we always look, for some opportunities for, energy reduction, efficiency, and so forth. This policy that really will put that front and center when doing a building. When a building or facility, when you build one, environmental sustainability is not in also do this. It's do this while you're building the building or the facility. So I think it's great that's out there. It's not just something that it's like posturing, and actually will, I think, have some significant impacts on the way that we plan facilities in the future. And like mentioned, also beyond our time here. So great that we had this codified. Look forward to seeing how we get it implemented.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments on the policy or any language in it? As everyone on the board knows, but anyone in the audience might not know, when policies new or revised come before the board, we do a first reading. That's what tonight is. We do a second reading. So at the next board meeting, we will either read this policy as it is now or as any changes that the board wants tonight. And then it comes to a third meeting, and that's when we actually adopt the policy either as new as this one or as revised. So plenty of time for the board and the public to review and comment.
I just wanted to thank the ad hoc committee for.
Sorry.
Okay, Dr. King.
I think there might be a typo, number 1, under general guidelines.
You did the bracket and the question mark?
Refuse, question mark, bracket.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Clean that up.
Grammar?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just wanted to circle back. I know we had talked, first off, thank you to the ad hoc committee that worked on this and the staff. But we had talked about having a sustainability plan. Is that something that is no longer being considered for inclusion in the policy?
I think that when we had talked about at the policy committee was, we could do that through a resolution, or we could do that through some other action, but we didn't want sort of the details of a sustainability study to slow down the process of having first a broader policy.
So I guess what I meant was not the details of a sustainability plan, but like calling for the enactment of a sustainability plan in the policy.
If I could just jump in and Dr. McKay or Mr. Schwartz, the ad hoc group is now looking at a resolution where that could become part of that. But we're looked at getting the policy squared away, and then the resolution that is more of a, what are we committing to in some goals and longer term work.
I think it was presented at the committee meeting with, we do demographic studies, but we don't have a policy that says, to do them on some certain cycle. So we didn't want to create an expectation in policy unique for that, like a sustainability study.
We'll be having more ad hoc. We have more
I'd like
meetings.
to see the expectation there, but.
We'll be having more of those ad hoc meetings, and that's one thing I do want to discuss at future ones, actually having a plan. The plan would really impact mostly, I think, if depending on what it says, mostly impact the ARs, which can be changed, pretty pretty easily, much more so than a policy. I did have one question about the ARs, for the alternative energy for buildings and facilities. This is something that I believe we added after the last meeting. We say that all new construction or renovation in excess of $1 million that include alterations or replacement of HVAC or electric systems shall be assessed. Are we saying that anything in excess of $1 million in alterations or the replacement of HVAC? Or I'm just curious if it's only, because that seems to kind of limit ourselves a little bit if we're talking about only alterations or replacement of HVAC or electrical systems. Is that for, I mean, I'm just thinking as an example, putting on a new roof, adding in, or looking at an option for a solar array might be something that we look at, but it's not technically, I guess that would technically be, would that be considered an alteration to electric system?
Well, I don't think it needs to be, I mean, it includes alterations or replacement of HVAC or electric systems. I don't think it's saying that it's those specific to.
Okay, it might be the language is, yeah, it might be just the language. It looks to be like it's limiting ourselves to those.
That's where it would typically be, so it's calling it out, but it's saying, but I don't think it's not exclusionary.
Okay, that's fine.
Just going back to the sustainability plan for a moment, just so I understand. I see the point with the demographic study, but that's like, that has to be done so we can plan for facilities, so we can plan for, next generations of students and for staffing. So that feels like a necessity, whereas I'm not really sure where the teeth in this policy would come from if we don't have a plan. We're not instituting a plan regularly, like in 5-year intervals or whatever it is, to ensure that we're working toward these goals. I'd like for us to at least maybe further explore the possibility of adding in a sustainability plan to the policy.
I think if we were gonna add it anywhere, it would be more properly in the administrative regulation, and it would be something more akin to review, to review or analyze a sustainability study, something like that. I mean, I don't think the policy is the proper place to say, go do this now. The policy is like a broader, this is our vision, and then it's the administrative regulations that are discussing exactly what should happen.
Just to push back on that a little bit, because I mean, I'm looking at point 6 in the general guidelines. So we're talking about periodic updates. Well, what are the updates? What's that progress aiming, like what are we working toward? And I think the plan, having a sustainability plan could provide that structure so we know if we're actually making progress towards something real.
I think usually these kind of plans do prioritize improvements and have benchmarks. So while the plan itself isn't referenced in the policy, I think that developing a plan and looking at the benchmarks on a regular basis, we are going to put yearly, I think we changed it to regular basis. But exploring those on a regular basis, I think would be part of this. But I tend to agree that as far as the policy goes, which is an overarching idea of we want to do this.
Right, and especially if we're a governing body, I need to know what the goals are that we're working towards, so I have a baseline for understanding the progress that we're making.
So actually, and with paragraph 6, I think the way this reads is a little bit awkward, and what we had discussed at the committee is to provide periodic updates to the board, and it would be at least on a yearly basis. So, because periodic updates and then to have yearly in here also, it doesn't make much sense. But what we had discussed, what my notes reflect are, provide periodic updates to the board at least yearly on the progress, so that we do have a we're not saying it needs to be by X date every time, and we in fact want more updates than that. We expect there to be updates during a lot of the facilities and finance meetings, but it would be at that language of change to at least yearly.
And I think we have other opportunities to put goals out, like goals aren't always embedded in our policies, but are.
Again, not saying we need to write the goals here, just saying that we would want to have a sustainability plan.
Right.
Period. And then the details.
Can I just have a clarifying question about what you're bringing up?
Sure.
Are you asking for something that's like a sustainability plan that we are hiring somebody as a consultant to come in, or more like an ad hoc group that's reviewing what our goals are and presenting those? Like what is it that you are looking for to have in here?
Right, so just whether it's an ad hoc group or it is some outside group that brings a certain level of expertise on this topic, but who would come in and help us develop the benchmarks so we know what goals we're working towards. So we can know what progress looks like. So maybe, I guess what I'm proposing more is a structure for the periodic updates.
Almost like there might be like a committee that reviews that on a yearly basis and then reports back
Or
to.
a 2-year cycle, a 3-year cycle with intermittent updates.
So, two things that I'll add to that. Number one, it can go back to the committee, to that ad hoc group, because I mentioned the ad hoc group is still meeting, or will meet again to look specifically at some type of a resolution. And when the ad hoc group was meeting, one of the first things that we talked about, and maybe the group really heard this very clearly, and some of the struggle tonight might be how to work around it, to be very careful not to commit financial resources in a policy when that commitment is not tied to either a code, legislation in some way. And I think the committee members were very conscious of that, because that's where partially the resolution conversation came up. Well, if we don't do it in policy, where could we say that we want this type of work done? So maybe back to the ad hoc group, their meeting before the end of this month.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Like procedurally.
Well, I still
Someone's
think
got to
that it
make
would
a
be more
motion.
properly in an AR, which is easier to revise and again, lays out exactly how the administration is going to, move forward on the vision of the policy. So I think if we wanted to put something in there about a sustainability study, about checking in specifically on the study and progress every 2 years on a benchmark, I think all of that is fair, but I think it would be more appropriate in the AR.
I will agree
could
with
add it
Dr. Larson,
anytime.
though, that I think having some clear benchmarks that we're working towards could be a helpful thing, whether it's in the AR, whether it's in a resolution, but just having something that helps us to have some clear guidance.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'd like to make a motion to have this return to the committee.
There has been a motion for this to go back to the policy committee. Is there a second?
Yes, okay. Second.
Moved and seconded, so now that is the vote that we need to take. So we're voting on moving this back to committee. All in favor?
Can we discuss first? Because the policy committee doesn't meet again until June. And so that would delay this policy getting enacted until August at the best. And so if we, again, I think what we wanted to do was put forward the policy. If we want to have these specifics in it, we can change them in an AR, we can do the resolution. If it's really important to the board to have that specific line in the policy, then we should move it back to the committee. But if the board wants to begin moving forward with this policy, I think that we can make those changes at the board level and continue without needing to bring it back to the policy committee.
Can we, in a sense, so I understand the structural rules, if it goes back to the ad hoc committee, not the policy committee, and the ad hoc is able to make adjustments that are not, we'll check in with Larry on whether they're substantial or not, that maybe the next time we meet during the second reading, there could be potential changes that come from the ad hoc committee reviewing Dr. Larson's recommendations.
So the ad hoc committee makes recommendations to the policy committee. So it would be referred back to the policy committee, and if this is a substantial change in the policy, it has to go back to then come back forward for a first read again.
Okay. If it's not a substantial change, like, I don't know how we determine that, so.
It is sounding as if, in my opinion, it's a substantial
Okay.
change for in the structure of the policy to go back to the committee and then to have another first read.
Okay.
Would it be a substantial change if a sustainability plan, for example, was referenced in the AR? Would it would be changed to the policy or changed to the AR, I guess? I mean, because I think that would be, and I tend to agree, a study would be very beneficial. I think that would be added into the AR, though not into the policy itself. So I guess, Larry, if that would that still be considered a substantial change? I'm thinking like maybe a couple sentences saying, the sustainability plan shall be prepared and revised every so many years, which will guide.
Sorry, my microphone was not working.
Sorry.
Again, as I understand the request and the consideration, it's to be committing resources as well through the designation of an environmental sustainability study, which would most likely be addressed through a directive in the policy with the specifics within the AR. But at the moment, as I'm hearing it, it's a request to change the policy to require the environmental sustainability program as for the existence of the policy. So as long as the policy was in place, there would be an environmental sustainability study that would need to move forward. It would be more than just in the administrative regulation.
Okay.
I would propose that we allow this to be something that can be discussed in the ad hoc committee, and if there's a way that we can be able to get wording into the AR, and see if that can satisfy this instead of having it go back to the policy committee, just due to the fact that this would postpone.
Okay, so the motion that's been seconded and discussed is to send this policy back to the policy committee, right?
Correct. The motion that's currently in front of you is to send it back to the policy committee. We have allowed some discussion. I think the rules are that there is no discussion on this, but we do have flexibility to allow
Sorry, Larry.
debate on that. But the current motion is to send it back to the policy committee. A majority vote would send it back to the committee. Less than 5 votes would go back to the original motion of the first read.
Is discussion still open?
About sending it back to the policy
About the
committee?
motion.
Yes.
I guess my concern is if there's no resources being put behind this, I'm not sure why we're even doing it. I think it's so easy to say, yes, we want, a healthier, cleaner, greener environment. And that is a lofty goal, but those things do cost money. And I'll go back to a quote from Kurt Vonnegut that I absolutely love and resonates with me, especially in this situation. Like he said, we could have saved the earth, but we were too damn cheap. So either and for me personally, as a board member, either we're doing this or we're not. And I know we can't make money appear, and there may not be grant funding for this, but if we're going this route, we're spending the time and resources on developing this policy, I'd like to see it have some teeth so we can actually make some real change and be role models for our students.
I mean, I think another way to look at what is in front of us is that this is the recommendation, the input of our facilities department, who have already committed to this with the resources at hand. And this policy is poised to move forward and commit the district to the extensive list of things outlined in the AR. But the motion again on the table is for sending this back to the policy committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No. All right, I think we're gonna have to see hands, but I think the nays had it. All in favor of going back to policy committee, please raise your hand. My hand is down. All opposed? All right, so that is done, and we are back to the first motion, which was to approve the first reading of 712. Are we ready for a vote on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I think that is still the 2 against, but the motion passes. Thank you for a good discussion. The next item on the agenda is policy 626. I will accept a motion to accept the first reading of policy 626, federal fiscal compliance and its corresponding ARs, administrative regulations.
Snodgrass moved.
Larson second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, this one we also discussed at the last policy committee meeting, and there was some interesting discussion around this one, specifically on the different ARs. And so you'll see that this one has a lot of attachments to it. There's a lot of documents here. So we did have a couple changes to the policy itself, and I'll go over those, and then just discuss the way that the policy committee had discussed what to do with all of these ARs. So in delegation of responsibility, we have in collaboration with the designated federal programs that was added, and then we removed the Director of Learning and Assessment there. Let's see here, on record keeping, there were some changes to, I think these were just really typing changes. But then in the section that starts that record shall be maintained for a minimum of, we are gonna change that to 6 years to align with our policy 800 AR. So that's one that we will wanna see for the second reading, if this is approved for a first reading. The other major part of the discussion of this specific policy was we had actually also discussed proposing what you see here as 626.1 as being a new policy, but it really seemed to fit along with this policy. And if you look at it, it looks much more like an administrative regulation. And this policy 626, as it has been in our current policy, had five attachments to it. And so I think this was something that we used to do before our policy audit, and we would sometimes have attachments to documents. We thought on the policy committee that it would be more accessible for those to be listed as administrative regulations, since that's more uniform with our current structure. And so what we wanted to do as a policy was to see whether the board wanted, let's see here, we have 6 administrative regulations here. They're separate documents. They are talking somewhat about separate issues. Or if the board wanted it to be one AR, which is what we have a lot, but it would be like very, very long administrative regulation and potentially more difficult to find the exact one that you're looking for. So that's generally the discussion that happened at the policy committee. Happy to hear other thoughts, comments on this and what folks think about now seeing the different, what used to be forms in the policy as administrative regulations.
I mean, I think this makes sense because federal guidance changes regularly. Even looking at travel reimbursement, those, those percentages of pennies back on each mile that you get back change yearly. So I think it makes sense to have it in the ARs.
And I think looking at the policy and then seeing the separate ARs like this does make it easier to organize and navigate, and it jumps out at you what the topics are as opposed to one umbrella AR that would go on for dozens of pages.
Right, go find your section and specifically, and I think this will make it easier for the district to revise as well. To Dr. Larson's point, these things do change, and so when there are changes, it will be easier for the district to change one as opposed to changing this large document, finding the revision necessary, et cetera.
Even with breaking it up, some of them are still kind of long. So,
Yeah,
so
right, they're not short.
Yeah.
Right, there's a lot in each one. And at the policy committee, we did discuss as well that we would be seeing a new reimbursement policy, which would be a new policy for us, and that would be discussed at our next policy committee meeting.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading is approved. Item C is policy 605. I will accept a motion to accept the first reading of policy 605, tax levy.
Larson moved.
Snodgrass, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. So this one, again, was discussed at our last policy committee. There were not very many changes here between when the committee saw it and today. We did add a line for, return checks, and just to make sure that people know that return checks, for insufficient funds will not be considered as timely payments. So, that's specifically in there. Looking at when the committee looked at it, it was an open question, so we wanted to make sure that the public understood, what would happen in that circumstance.
Just looking at the language around per capita tax, I know that's not something that we currently institute. I'm not even sure if that's ever been instituted in Haverford in recent memory. Are we keeping that there kind of, if we were to need to go that route, would?
I think we did not want to curtail the options that the state gives school districts. So it does have the may language in it, may levy, but you're right, it's not current practice or recent practice, but we did not want to have a policy that codifies a limitation of things we're permitted to do.
Right, and even though the policy committee, some would say is very active right now, there might be a time when it's not so active. And so, but we do want to, try and keep up with everything. And again, like President Wiedemann said, not limit ourselves on that if for some reason times change and things change, and that's an option for the board.
All in favor of 605?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading is approved. Item D is policy 606. I will welcome a motion to accept the first reading of policy 606, tax collection.
Snodgrass moved.
Board second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This one was discussed at the last committee meeting. It had been discussed at a committee meeting before that as well. And so there were several changes here made. In the purpose section, we added for the tax collector who may collect taxes along with associated responsibilities. Under guidelines, the paragraph that starts the tax collector designated by the board, there were 2 sentences added at the bottom of that. For unpaid taxes are returned to the Tax Claim Bureau of the County of Delaware during the month of January. That sentence was added, as well as in addition, once unpaid taxes have been turned over to the Tax Claim Bureau, additional penalties may be incurred. And the next whole paragraph is also new. Again, this was a discussion of the policy committee to really make sure that our policy was being transparent and that we could understand it, and therefore the public could understand it. Again, we see in 606, that language there for checks returned for insufficient funds as well. And there was quite a good discussion on the specifics of when taxes are not received in time, it actually is no longer, it can no longer be paid to the district. So it then has to go to the county instead of us. And so that's why this language was added, to make sure that anyone looking at our policies, if they are in that situation, understands what is actually happening.
Just looking at the language at the bottom of the first page, I think there's a word missing in the district will not accept cash payment, and then it just reads or post dated for payment due. I think that should be post dated checks for payment due.
Okay.
Any other comments or discussion about policy on tax collection? All in favor of approving the first reading?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading is approved. Item E is policy 608. I will accept a motion to accept the first reading of policy 608, bank accounts.
Snodgrass moved.
Larson second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So we are at 6:08 here. There were a couple of revisions to this one as well. It was discussed at the policy committee. There was, honestly, some awkward language at the beginning for the purpose. The purpose statement was talking about the purpose, and it was very redundant. So we had that removed. We added a definition for designated depository, which has been used within the policy, but had not been defined before. And then you'll see it in bold under the guidelines. See, there was also, the board shall periodically obtain quotations for specified banking services prior to designating its depository. That's been removed. And
It's been removed because that was already assigned to the business manager.
right. Okay. And those are all of the revisions that the policy committee made.
Any comments or discussion on bank accounts? All in favor of a first reading?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading of 608 is approved. Item F, second to last, is 612. I will accept a motion to approve the first reading of policy 621, local taxpayer bill of rights and its corresponding AR.
Snodgrass, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So this is a new policy for us, or would be a new policy for us, 621, the local taxpayer bill of rights. It was originally modeled after a PSBA version, but it was simplified. And the administrative regulation speaks to the actual implementation of the policy. A couple revisions that the policy committee made since its last reading. We added transfer tax to the definition of eligible taxes. In guidelines, it now says any tax information at the beginning, and it ends that sentence with to the extent required by law. In the administrative regulations, section 3, under the taxpayer bill of rights, tax overpayment fund refunds. There was a typo there that has been fixed to now say overpaid. And the new paragraph here, starting if no return is required. A couple other typing revisions here, but those are the substantive ones. And I think that is it for this one. Again, this would be a new policy, but it meets a requirement that we put taxpayers on notice for their taxpayer bill of rights. And this was modeled after PSBA with some revisions to simplify it.
And largely follows the language from Pennsylvania.
Right.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor of the first reading of 621?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading is approved. We have reached our final policy of this evening, 622. I will accept a motion to accept the first reading of policy 622, capital assets, and GASB statement 34 and corresponding AR.
Snodgrass moved.
First and second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, this was a last minute addition to the policy committee because we realized that basically we have no room to make edits to this policy. It would be a new policy for us. And so it would be new in Haverford, but it's based on the PSBA model and it is all based on law and really not much room for revisions for us. So again, we're already complying with the law in Haverford, but we are, enacting this policy, which is be codifying what's going on.
And so at times, some of the policies that we've seen to be added have been at the request of our solicitor, bond counsel, other advisors to best practice that just help the district point to policies, procedures, and this would be one that codifies practices in place and would appeal to our accountants and auditors, right?
Right, and so, our experts in accounting recommend this. It's best practice to have one of these policies, and so like, President Wiedemann said, that's why we would bring this forward. And, there were no revisions between what the policy committee saw and, this version that we have in front of us tonight.
Seeing no one jumping to add any comments or discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading of 622 is approved. Thank you for getting us through the policy. Policy section of the agenda, we're next up to other items. Item A is Delaware County Community College trustee appointment. I will accept a motion to approve the appointment and corresponding resolution for George B. Dawson to serve as a trustee to the Delaware County Community College for a term ending June 30th, 2029.
And this will be a roll call vote.
A roll call, okay. I need a first and second first.
Larson moved.
Snodgrass second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This was what Dr. King had described as part of her report. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
roll call.
Oh, sorry, roll call. I did it. Okay.
Dr. King,
Yes.
Dr. Larson,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Dr. McKay,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Dr. Shelton, Ms. Vitale,
Yes,
Ms. Snodgrass,
Yes.
Ms. Wiedemann.
yes. Thank you. Item B is the healthcare trust resolution. I will accept a motion to approve the resolution for the Delaware County Public Schools Healthcare Trust, reappointing George Ramundos to serve as a member of the Board of Directors for a 2-year term starting July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026.
Larson moved.
For a second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you to Dr. Ramundos for taking on that role. I know it's an additional responsibility. The healthcare trust is extremely important. It results in cost savings in healthcare expenses to our local districts, so thank you. Ourselves included.
Yeah.
Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Item 12 of our agenda is the time for public comment. The board values public comment as an essential component of school governance that adds information for the deliberation of the important and complex matters that come before the board. It is an opportunity for members of the community to address the board, and our meetings are an opportunity for us all to model good government for the engaged citizens, or model engaged citizenship for our students. Our public comment is divided into these two sections. There was an earlier one for action items. You can find the agenda on the district website under the school board section and board docs. Residents of the township may, in advance of the meeting, sign up to make public comment by emailing publiccomment@haverfordsd.net. In order to give everyone an equal opportunity to speak, and per our board policy, you will have 3 minutes to address the board. At the 3-minute point, a timer will sound and you will be asked to conclude your remarks. Please begin your comments by stating your name and confirming your residency in Haverford Township. If you have materials to distribute, please leave them at the end of the board table. Your name and topics of your comments will be recorded in the meeting minutes, and your presentation is being broadcast and recorded as part of our meeting. If appropriate, an administrator or I will follow up with speakers to discuss and respond to issues raised. We've had 6 people sign up. The first is Joan Ehly, E-H-L-Y, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I'm not seeing her. Patricia Lake. I'm not seeing Patricia. Todd Hall.
Good evening, Todd Hall. I live in Haverford Township. Before I begin, I'd first like to thank the guidance staff at Manoa Elementary and the high school guidance staff for putting together a mentorship program. My child enjoyed learning from older students. Public meetings are an important part of democracy. They provide an opportunity to receive diverse viewpoints, including ones that someone may not have heard before. For example, I didn't know until public comment at the last meeting that the amount of money provided in school choice vouchers is so low that it makes the concept unfeasible. We hear much about social emotional learning and mental health from school leadership lately. Like anything created by people, there's a mix of good and bad. To support the receipt of additional viewpoints on mental health in children and social and emotional learning, I'm providing a copy of a book on this subject by Abigail Schreier to each voting member of the board. I have no further commentary on the book. I let it speak for itself. I ask that the book be distributed to each board member, and thank you for at least a cursory review. I'll be leaving immediately after the meeting. I certainly hope everyone does take a cursory look at the book. If there's any questions, concerns, feedback, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernadette Lawson.
Good evening. My name is Bernadette Lawson. I'm a resident of Haverford Township. I wanted to talk about the proposed budget and discussions at the May 9th Finance Committee meeting. Our school district is not immune from the impact of inflation, and I'm not here to complain about the resulting tax increase. I would like to follow up on an interesting point that Ms. Vitale made. Given the roughly 800 student enrollment increase since 2014, I too am curious about the increase in district administrative positions for that time period. Mr. Testa indicated that he could provide that information to Ms. Vitale. I was just curious if that information will be made public. Ms. Vitale broached the idea of potentially reverting to teachers doing ELA audits instead of outsourcing this responsibility. I spoke with a close friend of mine who is a public middle school teacher in Bucks County. Teachers in her school perform ELA audits and are typically compensated in the form of paid time off. So that's an idea. Is this potential savings a mere drop in the bucket compared to the entire budget? Yes. Is it a good idea? I don't know. I'm just expanding on Ms. Vitale's suggestion. And isn't this the point of the interim period before the budget is formally voted on? Personally speaking, a tax increase goes down much easier if I see my elected school board members at least attempt to discuss or respectfully debate expenses that could potentially be trimmed. Mr. Schwartz and Ms. Larson, I don't doubt that you both care deeply about our district and its students. Having said that, Mr. Schwartz, your agitation with Ms. Vitale's questions was palpable and disappointing. Ms. Larson, you responded to Ms. Vitale with, quote, would your proposal be that teachers also do administrative work and also lead the vision and mission of the district and do compliance work and financial work, end quote? That is a classic straw man fallacy of distorting or exaggerating an opposing point of view. Ms. Larson, I don't necessarily disagree with your position on school vouchers, but its merit gets lost when you use an ad hominem attack calling Ms. Vitale hypocritical. You wrapped up your comments with a sarcastic, quote, try to be consistent over there, end quote. I feel that your remarks and tone fell short of the ideals of critical thinking, empathy, and inclusiveness found in our district mission statement and goals, which are read at the start of every school board meeting. I spoke to this board in March of 2023, and I'm closing my remarks with the same reminder. And again, I am providing a hard copy report with the results of the 2021 school board election. Whether in person, provisional, or mail-in ballot, Ms. Vitale received more votes than Ms. Larson, Dr. McKay, or Dr. King. She more than earned a seat at that table, and I ask that the board show her the respect that she deserves, and by proxy to the voters that put her there. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. The next speaker is Janice Miller.
Okay.
Good evening, Janice Miller, resident of Haverford Township. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. First off, I'd like to say what a wonderful idea the casual school board meetings are, and I would like to request that we can add in more of them for next year, as it's really nice time to get us all together to talk. We have different political, social views, but all of us who attended were civil, kind, and we even come to realize we have some common ground. Oh, and also the 6 cups of coffee Janice had wasn't so bad. That being said, I'd like to address why I'm really up here tonight. As you remember, my first speech 2 years ago was about the bullying that goes on in Haverford School District. But that speech was in reference to the children. Sadly, the bullying is not limited to the students. After watching several school board meetings the last few years, and especially the last curriculum meeting, it is very clear that bullying is also going on between adults in the school district. More specifically, some of the adults are on this school board. It was first noticed by not only myself, but many other community members during the virtual meetings. School board members clearly texting what one can only assume was other school board members, as certain members of the community, AKA Republicans, zoomed in and gave their comments. This then progressed into blatant face-to-face reactions at in-person meetings. One in particular being when Snodgrass and Larson were whispering to one another as Helene Conroy Smith approached the podium. And moving forward, I have seen and addressed to you all before the clear abusive treatment given to your fellow school board member, Danielle Vitale, by none other than her fellow board members. And here we are today. After watching the most recent curriculum meeting, I'm disgusted to say once again, your continued blatant, shall I say, cruelness, or better yet, lack of human decency towards Danielle was for sure noticed and became the talk of the town. It started with McKay's facial expressions while Vitale was talking. It then progressed to Larson. After telling Danielle she should try to be more consistent over there, you went back to quickly typing on your computer as to shut it down, thinking that you put Danielle in her place. It was appalling that a grown adult who's in charge of making decisions for our children would act this way. If we want our children to do better, we must do better ourselves. I would love to see a public apology given, but I won't hold my breath. I'll end this speech as the same as my last speech. Do better, be better.
Helene Conroy Smith.
I love how my colleagues are so kind, and I'm just done. I've been at this district for a long time. So my name's Helene Conroy Smith. I'm a resident here, soon to be a homeowner only here in this town. PSBA recommends that school districts generally have only 10 to 15 of each annual budget that is discretionary spending. I noticed my microphone's off. That the rest of this 85 to 90% is eaten up by costs over which the school districts have little or no control. At the May 9th Financial and Facilities meeting, there was not that the school district's budget was 96% non-discretionary and 4% discretionary, as stated by Mr. Schwartz. Normally, this board touts following PSBA. You're in line with their position. I don't think for this one you are, so you better call the police. Woo, woo! Maybe the school district police should come along because you're not following PSBA's recommendations. PSBA and the school district of Haverford Township follow a diversity line. Although I have to question what that means, I'm still not sure because we're $174 million in debt in this district now with this new budget. Is that diverse? I mean, for me, someone who is a saver and who is really financially and fiscally responsible, shouldn't we be tightening that budget and looking at it? But there's also the people that like to spend, and they don't care about my money. Ms. Vitale, I want to say, did the only one ask questions about tightening the budget. She said there is a fiduciary duty, and that's true. That's part of Pennsylvania law. Ms. Larson misled the public by calling Ms. Vitale a voucher supporter at the meeting on 5/9. That wasn't what was stated by Ms. Vitale, and most of the current bills and mandates in Harrisburg are really terrible. We know the vouchers aren't that great. And as an informed taxpayer and a school board member asking questions about the budget, that's her duty. And Ms. Larson, you went on a name call. Maybe you should look inside yourself. In 2016, Ms. Larson, you got a note on your car claiming that it was filled with hateful speech. Although after an investigation by the Haverford Township Police, the only piece of evidence in that note that it was in existence was by you. Okay? In the summer of 2021, Ms. Larson, you blamelessly accused the father of a special needs child of bringing a gun to a meeting. I mean, come on. You said that she was a voucher supporter. You're name calling. You called out people. Let's go with this. I mean, come on. This is unacceptable. And you know what? You're blaming the police. They didn't find anything. So are you saying that you don't believe the police either? I mean, the police did do their due diligence in that. In my opinion, as a taxpayer, I'm watching the behavior of this board pontificating. It really makes me wonder, are we really that diverse?
Thank you. Ms. Miller commented on the community conversations that the board has hosted. There is going to be one scheduled for May 29th, a last one for the school year, so hopefully people will take us up on the opportunity to bring your issues and interests and talk with school board members and administrators.
Can I speak? I don't know if there was any time for anybody that was able to speak after.
Yes, I will let you speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My name is Dory Dowdy, resident of Haverford Township for 35 years. What I'm about to read is an email written by Terry Walther, lifelong Havertown resident, sent earlier today to Ms. Vitale. It is with Ms. Walther's permission I'm reading this as she was unable to attend this evening's meeting. Hi, Danielle. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for all that you are doing, not only for the students of Haverford Township School District, but also the residents and staff. You are consistently speaking up and asking questions for the betterment of our district, whether it is advocating that all students should have a textbook, or that teachers should be heard, or for being the voice of taxpayers. You questioned how our district has dropped in the state rankings, why teachers are being hindered in how they teach, and how possibly to cut the budget to save taxpayers from a tax increase in the coming year. Sadly, in doing all these things that you as a school board member were elected to do, I feel that you have been unfairly treated. I have watched many meetings and have heard the mission statement read each time, stating how our district is to be welcoming and inclusive. I have heard Bridget state how we are to be neighborly and have a good example for the students that are watching. I've witnessed just the opposite of this at a recent school board meeting, because you are doing your job. The treatment you are receiving from some of the other school board members is not very neighborly, nor very welcoming, and not a good example. I commend you for your courage and for standing up to these bullying tactics. I pray for your protection, and I hope that you continue to stand up and speak out for what is right and just for this school district, the students, staff, and taxpayers. Please know that you have many people watching and supporting you. Sincerely, Terry Walther. And I'd like to add some of my own thoughts to close this out. The PSBA, Pennsylvania School Boards Association, contains a listing of actions, principles of governance and leadership, a poster that's hanging up behind you there, where school board members agree to strive for. Two of the categories, leadership and communication. The lead responsibly, one of the bulleted actions is work together in a spirit of harmony, respect, and cooperation. Under communication, communicate clearly. One of the bulleted points is promote open, honest, and respectful dialogue among the board, staff, and community. Perhaps a review of these actions is in order and may be helpful. And really, and lastly, I hear the word diversity mentioned a lot, but what about diversity of thoughts, opinions, and alternative viewpoints? Shouldn't this be upheld in an academic educational setting? Issues should be discussed and contested by varying views for advancing understandings. Monolithic thinking and values can result in stagnation. Academic and educational institutions must be dynamic in order to be relevant. Thank you. I
appreciate the comments tonight. It has been my goal as board president to have a board that can effectively deliberate and conduct our business, that approaches this work as a board that does respect each of the members and promotes open dialogue and diverse perspectives. And board development is a goal of this board to continue to do better, and I appreciate the feedback that we received tonight and look forward to more opportunities for this board to work on best practices and best governance. The next regular board meeting is scheduled to be held on June 13th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Oakmont Administration Building. That will be a week after our seniors graduate. And with that, I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.